The camera that wasn't on the system. The night I realized something was wrong started like every other night. Quiet, boring, and honestly, a little lonely. I work night security in a large office building downtown. 20 floors, dozens of companies, and after midnight it feels like the entire place turns into a ghost town. Most people imagine security jobs as intense. But the truth? 90% of the time you're just watching cameras and drinking bad coffee. My shift starts at 11 p.m. Every night I do the same routine. Check the lobby, check the parking garage, then sit in the security office and monitor the cameras. There are over 100 cameras in the building. Hallways, elevators, entrances, parking levels, everything. Or at least, that's what I thought. Because one night, about 2 months into the job, I noticed something strange. I was doing a routine camera check, just clicking through the feeds. Camera 1, Camera 2, Camera 3, lobby, elevator, floor 12 hallway. Normal stuff. Then suddenly the system skipped a number. Camera 47, then Camera 49. At first I thought it was just a glitch, but the next night it happened again. Camera 47, then 49, no 48, which was weird, because our building blueprint clearly listed Camera 48. I pulled up the system map. Every camera had a location, except one, Camera 48, no location, no feed, just a blank slot in the system. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the screen. Maybe it had been removed, or maybe it was broken. Either way, it shouldn't have bothered me. But something about it felt wrong. So the next night I asked the day shift guard. "Hey," I said, "do you know what happened to Camera 48? He looked confused. "What camera?" 48. He shrugged. "Never heard of it." That answer didn't make sense. Every security guard in the building knows the cameras, especially the weird ones, broken ones, blind spots. But apparently nobody knew about this one. So the next day I asked the building manager. He didn't even look up from his laptop. It's probably just old equipment. But the blueprint says it's active. He paused for a second, then finally looked at me and said something that immediately made the situation feel strange. "Don't worry about it." That was it. No explanation, no details, just don't worry about it. Now, if you've ever worked security, you know something. When management says don't worry about it, that usually means you should absolutely worry about it. But I let it go. For about a week. Until something else happened. One night around 2 a.m., I was sitting in the security room watching the monitors. The office floors were empty. Cleaning crews had already left. The building was silent. Then something on one of the screens caught my attention. Camera 12. The hallway outside the accounting offices. A light was on, which shouldn't have been possible. That floor had been empty for hours. I zoomed the camera. The door to one of the offices was slightly open. And there was movement inside. Someone was in the building at 2 a.m., which wasn't impossible, but it was definitely unusual. So I grabbed my radio and headed upstairs. The elevator ride felt longer than usual. When the doors opened on floor 12, the hallway was completely quiet. No voices, no footsteps, just the humming sound of the lights. But the office door was still open, exactly like the camera showed. I walked closer, slowly. "Security!" I called out. No answer. I pushed the door open. The office was empty. Chairs, desks, computers, nothing else. I checked every room. Nobody there. Which meant one of two things had happened. Either the person left in the few seconds between the camera and my arrival, or someone had been in the office and disappeared. I went back to the security room and rewound the footage. What I saw made my stomach drop, because the camera showed someone walking into the office. A man, tall, wearing a dark jacket. But the weird part wasn't that someone entered. The weird part was what happened after. The camera showed him walk inside, the door closed behind him. And then, he never came back out. I replayed the footage 3 times, 5 times, 10 times. The man walked in, but there was no footage of him leaving, which should have been impossible, because the hallway camera covered the only exit, unless there was another camera watching that hallway, a camera that wasn't connected to the system. Camera 48. That was the moment something clicked in my head. If camera 48 was real, then someone else could be watching parts of the building that we couldn't see. And suddenly I couldn't stop thinking about one question. If security wasn't controlling that camera, then who was? And more importantly, why was it pointed inside our building? The camera nobody controlled. After watching that footage for the 10th time, I couldn't shake the feeling that something in the building was wrong. Really wrong. A man walked into that office, and he never came out. Now maybe there was a simple explanation. Maybe another exit. Maybe a stairwell camera had glitched. Maybe the footage skipped. But the more I checked, the worse it got. Because there was no glitch. The hallway camera never lost signal. The timestamp never jumped. The man simply walked inside that office and vanished. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the monitor. That's when I remembered something. Camera 48. The one that didn't exist. Or at least, didn't exist in the system. If there was another camera in that hallway, it might have seen something my system didn't. But there was only one way to find out. I grabbed the building blueprints again. Every camera had a small icon. Lobby cameras, elevator cameras, garage cameras. Then I zoomed into the 12th floor hallway. And there it was, camera 48, mounted directly across from the office where the man disappeared. But here's the weird part. The camera wasn't facing the hallway. It was angled slightly downward, pointed directly at the security hallway intersection, which meant something strange. That camera wasn't installed to monitor employees. It was installed to monitor security patrol routes. I felt a weird chill run through me, because that meant someone wasn't watching the building. They were watching us. I grabbed my flashlight and went back upstairs. If camera 48 was really there, I wanted to see it with my own eyes. The hallway looked exactly the same. Silent. Empty. But when I looked at the ceiling near the intersection, I saw it. A small black dome camera, almost hidden between two lights. I stood there staring at it, because I knew every camera in this building, and I had never seen that one before. I walked underneath it, looked closer. No company logo, no asset number, nothing. Just a small black camera watching the hallway. I tried the radio. "Control check," I said into it. Silence. Then the day guard answered. "You good?" "Yeah," I said slowly. I looked up at the camera again. "Just checking something." I walked back downstairs to the security room, and that's when I made a decision I probably shouldn't have made. I started digging. Our security system had logs, access logs, maintenance logs, camera installation records. So I searched for camera 48. Nothing. No installation record, no maintenance record, no mention of it anywhere. It simply didn't exist, which meant one thing. That camera had been installed outside the official system. Someone had put it there manually and never told anyone. I sat there staring at the screen for a long time, trying to figure out who would do that. Then I remembered something else. 3 weeks earlier, a technician had come to the building. He said he was doing network upgrades. He had access to several floors, including the security wiring closets. At the time, I didn't think much about it, but now it felt different. Because if someone wanted to install a hidden camera, that would have been the perfect opportunity. The next night, I checked the wiring closet on the 12th floor. Security wiring closets are usually boring, just cables and routers. But this one had something new. A small black network box mounted to the wall. I had never seen it before. It wasn't labeled. No company branding. Just a blinking green light. I crouched down and looked closer. 3 Ethernet cables were plugged into it. One from the hallway, one from the network switch, and one running deeper into the ceiling. I followed the cable with my flashlight. It disappeared into the ceiling tiles, which meant that camera wasn't just installed secretly. It had its own private network connection. Someone was recording that footage somewhere else. Not in our security system. Not in our building servers. Somewhere else entirely. That was when the situation stopped feeling weird and started feeling dangerous. Because whoever installed that camera didn't want security to see it. And suddenly another thought hit me. If someone was secretly recording parts of the building, how many cameras like that existed? I opened the blueprint again and started comparing it to our system. That's when I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Camera 48 wasn't the only missing one. There were 3 more. Camera 32, Camera 71, Camera 103, all listed on the blueprint. All missing from our system. 4 hidden cameras, watching parts of the building that security couldn't see. I leaned back slowly in my chair, trying to think through the possibilities. Maybe it was corporate surveillance. Maybe some company tenant installed them. Maybe it was something harmless. But then I remembered the man in the office, the one who walked in and never walked out. And suddenly those hidden cameras didn't feel harmless anymore. They felt like someone was running their own security system inside the building. One that we weren't supposed to know about. And that's when something else happened. Something that made the entire situation even worse. Because while I was sitting there looking at the camera list, one of the monitors in front of me flickered. Just for a second. Then the screen went black. Not an error. Not a glitch. Just a black screen. And slowly, white text appeared in the middle. 3 words. Stop looking. My hands froze on the keyboard, because that message wasn't part of our system, which meant something terrifying. Whoever installed those hidden cameras knew exactly what I was doing, and they were watching me. The room. Behind the cameras. For a long time, I just sat there staring at the screen. Stop looking. Those 2 words didn't disappear. They just stayed there on the monitor like someone wanted to make sure I saw them. My first thought was simple. Someone hacked the system. But that didn't make sense. Our cameras were on a closed network. Only building security and IT had access, which meant whoever sent that message wasn't some random hacker. It was someone inside the building, watching the same system I was, watching me. I slowly looked around the security room. Empty. Just the low humming sound of the computer racks and the quiet glow of the monitors. But suddenly the room didn't feel safe anymore. It felt like somewhere in the building, someone was watching everything I did. I tried the radio. Control check. The day guard answered immediately. All good? Yeah, I said quickly. But my voice didn't sound convincing even to me. I looked back at the screen. The message was gone. Just the normal camera feeds again. Lobby, garage, elevators. Like nothing had happened. But I knew better. Someone had just told me to stop digging, which meant I had already found something important. And that meant I had 2 options. Ignore it, or find out what they were hiding. For the next hour, I couldn't focus on anything else. Those hidden cameras, the man who disappeared in the office, the message on my monitor, all of it felt connected. Then I remembered the wiring closet, the one with the mysterious network box. If those hidden cameras were recording somewhere, there had to be a server, somewhere in the building. So around 3:30 a.m., I grabbed my flashlight and started checking the wiring rooms. Floor 10, nothing. Floor 14, just normal equipment. Floor 17, same thing. But when I reached the maintenance level above the parking garage, I noticed something strange. There was a door I had never seen before, which was weird, because security patrols cover every level, every hallway, every storage room. But this door was tucked behind a row of cleaning supplies, almost hidden, no office label, no company name, just a small metal door with a keypad lock. I walked closer. The keypad light was on, which meant the room had power. But according to the building directory, there was no room there. I tried the handle. Locked, of course. But the strange part wasn't the lock. The strange part was the sound. From behind the door, a quiet humming noise. The same sound computer servers make. I stepped back slowly, because suddenly everything started making sense. Hidden cameras, private network boxes, a door no one knew about. Someone had built a secret server room inside the building. The question was, why? I went back to the security office and pulled up the building maintenance logs. After 10 minutes of searching, I found something interesting. 6 months earlier, there had been a renovation on the maintenance level. Officially, it was listed as storage upgrades, but the contractor name looked unfamiliar, not the company the building usually used. And the paperwork was minimal, almost like someone wanted the project to stay quiet. I stared at the screen thinking about what to do next. Then my radio crackled, but it wasn't the day guard. It was a voice I had never heard before, low, calm. Security. I froze. Yeah? There was a short pause. Then the voice said something that made my stomach drop. You should have listened. Then the radio went silent. Completely silent. No static. No signal. Like someone had just turned it off remotely. I stood there for a moment realizing something. Whoever was behind this knew exactly where I was, which meant there was no point pretending I didn't know about the room anymore. So I went back down to that door. The humming sound was still there. Servers, lots of them. I stared at the keypad. Then I tried something stupid. The keypad beeped, but the door stayed locked. Then I tried something else. The building's master maintenance code. The one security sometimes uses for emergency access. The keypad blinked, and suddenly the lock clicked. The door slowly opened. Inside the room were racks of computer servers, dozens of them, lights blinking, fans spinning, and cables running everywhere. At least 20 monitors were mounted on the wall, showing video feeds, camera feeds, from inside the building. But these weren't the normal cameras. These were the hidden ones. Hallways, offices, conference rooms, even parts of the parking garage. Someone had built an entire second surveillance system inside the building, one security wasn't supposed to know about. Then I noticed something else. One of the monitors showed the 12th floor office, the same office where the man disappeared. I walked closer, and that's when I saw it. The camera angle was different. It wasn't in the hallway. It was inside the office, hidden, and the footage showed exactly what happened after the man walked inside. 2 other men were already in the room, waiting for him. They started arguing, loud, aggressive. Then one of them shoved the man, hard. He fell into a desk. The argument got worse. Then suddenly one of the men pulled something from his jacket, a metal object. The footage didn't show exactly what it was, but the next moment the man who walked into the office collapsed on the floor. The other 2 men panicked. They dragged his body toward the back of the room, and then they opened a hidden panel in the wall, a maintenance access tunnel, and pulled the body inside. I stepped back from the monitor, because suddenly I understood everything. The hidden cameras weren't spying on security. They were recording private meetings, illegal meetings, deals, arguments, everything. Someone in the building had been secretly documenting it all, probably for leverage, blackmail, or protection. But that night something went wrong, and the cameras recorded something they were never supposed to capture. That's when the lights in the server room suddenly shut off. The monitors went black, except one. The last screen slowly flickered back on, and I saw something that made my heart start racing. The camera feed showed the hallway outside the server room. And standing there, looking directly at the door, was the building manager, the same one who told me weeks earlier, "Don't worry about camera 48. He stared at the camera for a moment. Then he spoke, quietly, but the microphone picked it up. "You weren't supposed to find this." Then the screen went dark. The next morning, the police were in the building. I reported everything: the hidden cameras, the server room, the footage. Turns out the building manager had been running the system for years, recording private meetings between companies in the building, collecting evidence, secrets, deals, everything. He wasn't selling the information, he was saving it, just in case he ever needed leverage. But the night that man died in the office, his secret system became evidence. Evidence that eventually exposed everything. The manager was arrested, the companies involved were investigated, and the hidden surveillance network was removed. As for me, I quit that job a week later. Because once you know someone secretly built a surveillance system inside your workplace, it's hard to ever feel comfortable there again. But sometimes I still think about that message on my monitor. Stop looking. And the strange part is, I never figured out who sent it. Because according to the police report, the building manager was already off-site that night, which means someone else in that building was watching the system too, and they never came forward.